On this channel, we've done What if Germany won World War I, like twice. So now, it's only logical if we do What if no one won World War I, because of course someone has made a Hearts of Iron 4 mod about that. Okay, so how does this happen? Well, Russia wins a Russo-Japanese war, and does well enough in World War I to defeat Germany. Just Germany defeats France first, so that's why the war was a draw. Now, Art Deco becomes even more popular than in our timeline. That's Red Flood for you, thanks for watching. Okay, just kidding, there's more. But before that, let's get in a quick word from today's sponsor, Opera. We are going to show you the Opera GX browser, the world's first browser for gamers. Opera GX is extremely useful for PC gamers because of GX control. It enhances performance on your PC while gaming and having the browser opened, and helps get rid of lag. Perfect if you want to keep a bunch of tabs open so you don't have to lose them, but don't want your browser to hurt your gaming performance. The panel lets users limit their computer CPU or RAM they are willing to let the browser use, and the network limiter, which lets you limit the network bandwidth used by Opera GX to gain performance in games and streams. You know those memes about Google Chrome being a RAM hog? Well, they're true, especially when you compare it to Opera GX here in the Task Manager. With GX Player, you can even directly log into Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube Music directly from the sidebar, letting you keep all your streaming services in one place. A nice feature of this is whenever you start streaming video or audio in your browser tabs, the player automatically pauses and then automatically resumes once the tab is finished. There's also built-in Twitch integration, which gives you notifications for when your favorite streamers go live. Plus, they also got that FB Messenger, Discord, and WhatsApp integration. And can we just take a moment to appreciate this Gucci looking at UI? There's a lot of different options for customizing the browser with special themes, wallpapers, and colors. Honestly, some really cool stuff. So go hit that link in the description and pinned comment to try it out for yourself. Comment #InstallGX and tell me what your favorite games are. I'll make sure to respond to comments with this hashtag. If you're worried about all the stuff you have saved in your current browser, GX comes with this nifty little import tool, which lets you simply import everything you want from your old browser to GX, like a browsing history, bookmarks, and cookies. Okay, so the victory in 1905 against Japan is more of a Pyrrhic one, in that the Russians won, just at a large cost. So basically like any other war the Russians have won. Now, Russia is a lot more assertive internationally, and the victories abroad help the Tsar be popular at home, despite the many internal issues that the country is facing. Not to say that there is no large-scale opposition, however. Sounds familiar, huh? Problems did begin to pop up after Prime Minister Pyotr Stolpin started to institute a bunch of modernizing reforms that both the left and right hated, all the while bypassing the State Duma in the process. This bought him enemies, and being Russia, of course, assassination attempts. Well, one assassin screwed up, and instead of shooting Stolpin, misses and shoots the Tsar instead. I mean, if I was a leftist revolutionary, I would consider that a pretty successful failure. This is a pretty big boost to Stolpin's popularity, and he becomes prime minister again, boosted by pro-Stolpin parties taking control of the Duma. This leads to large-scale economic growth, with Russia catching up to Western Europe. So of course, nothing could go wrong. Then that happens. Well, despite Stolypin not wanting to get involved, Russia does, and surprisingly, they do fairly decent at first. And then they begin to lose. But not badly per se. But then they do really good against the Austro-Hungarians, but not before Germany swoops in to stabilize the lines, so the Habsburgs don't surrender. So this kind of leaves things in a stalemate for a while. Now, Russia really did not have the equipment needed to supply their troops or feed their population. This leads to, you guessed it, instability, and Stolypin resigning. With everyone kinda tuckered out, what's left of the Entente and Central Powers gathered to sign a treaty. Well, that was the plan until a socialist revolution broke out in Germany. But the German socialists strike a deal with Russia. Don't invade us again, and we will give you East Prussia and Ponzan. Plus, we will stop supporting communist insurgencies and ethnic rebellions in Russia. With the war over, of course, famine, economic collapse, and the Tsar dies. Without an heir. So, by 1922, mass protests happen, and the regent is ousted by revolutionaries. Civil War time, and you know the drill. In the chaos, the imperial family kinda just disappeared, and no one really knows what happened to them. So, the anti-revolutionaries rally around war hero Alexander Kolchak, and defeat the Bolsheviks by 1926. Just in the process, they also lose quite a bit of territory to independence movements, or even worse, the British. With the Civil War over, Kolchak, with the excuse of preventing the election of a leftist government, couped the entire government and became dictator. Though many of the repressed groups fled to the east and founded their own Russian Republic. This leaves Russia fractured and dysfunctional. But in the next 10 years, Kolchak is able to hold on to power, even if just barely. The First World War saw Germany defeat France, then get defeated by Russia. So as mentioned in the last section, after the Kaiser abdicated in a brief stint in trying to create a traditional democratic government, everything collapsed again into civil war, in which northern Germany fought against the south. During the first months of the Civil War, the counter-revolutionaries called themselves the German Republic, but the South drifted more and more into a military dictatorship. But this new military government did not stay in power very long, as they were overrun by the socialists. They fled to East Prussia and then sort of became like the Taiwan of the Red Flood universe, with both sides claiming to be the true Germany. And also for some reason, a bunch of Germans fled to the Congo and established their own little warlord state. Yeah, France. Probably the most wacky of the starting countries. After getting beat badly in the war, all the radical ideologies and discontent popped up like they usually do. In 1931, Action Française took power, but because France, of course they were not radical enough. With the help of the common folk and the military, Antonin Artaud, under the banner of Accelerationism, became the supreme leader of France. But what is Accelerationism even? Well, honestly, I don't even know. But they think France can accelerate best through uniting the nation in a machine-like collective devoted to technological progress at any and all costs. They also want to popularize Spartan homosexuality and abolish personhood, so that everyone will become a collective part of their leader. Basically, take the traditional political compass and put accelerationism as some ball floating above the 3D plane. Now, probably the most wacky nation of this timeline, Italy, a functional liberal democracy. Italy joined the war, but only after France fell to the Germans, as Britain promised them all of France's colonies that were surrendered to the Germans. As Italy was able to surprise the Austro-Hungarians, they pushed fairly deep into their territory before facing resistance. This led to Italy losing the least and gaining the most of anyone during the war. Italy did get its promised share of colonies after the war, but the city of Fiume, which both they and Yugoslavia wanted, was made into a neutral free state. Well, salty Italian Gabriele D'Annunzio gathered some friends and took over the city, where groups of revolutionary intellectuals managed to assume control and created a political culture where spontaneous expression of beliefs replaced the procedures of parliamentary democracy, founding the ideology of futurism. Of course, Italy came back and retook the city, but then handed power back to D'Annunzio, thinking that he would create a buffer between Italy and the revolutions of the Balkans. Italy did see its share of revolutionaries, but thanks to coming out of the war fairly intact, nothing bubbled over enough to overthrow liberal democracy. When Mussolini's March on Rome happened, it failed and erupted into a street battle between the Young Democrats, Communists, and Fascists. With the extremists yeeted, Italy became a prosperous capitalist welfare state. Yeah, Austria-Hungary still got dissolved. Hungary, like Germany, fell to the revolution. Meanwhile, in Austria, German and Hungarian anti-communist immigrants helping to prevent the outbreak of a revolution. Franz Ferdinand is still kicking as leader, though he's looking like he might die soon. Also, with Germany being communist, Hitler stays in Austria, and is going around spouting that Austria should invade Switzerland.
I want to colonize this land, but it's full of Zulus. Just shot at a native and killed him.
India is in revolt, but yeah, it's still Britain. So losing the Russo-Japanese War made things go a little more wacky and radical in Japan. They still did the colonizing stuff just like in our timeline, and even went as far as to take Indochina from the French. But things at home were getting so spicy that the technocrats killed the emperor in 1934.
This is America.
Great Depression, just with more wackiness. Thanks again to Opera for sponsoring the video, and make sure to check out that link in the description. Thanks for patrons Andy Luke, Emerson Salmerio Rubio, Link the Bets 24, Sean Fennerty Loins, and Zyma.